Hello and welcome back to the studio. So tonight we are going to do a painting of something close to home, at least for me, here in Central California. It's a place called Hollister Peak. It's a lovely cap to an extinct volcano, and I have pre-drawn my picture of it right here. I've got that. I'm going to be using tonight, let's get this out of the way before we do anything, Prima watercolor set. This one is the Classics. There we go. Set that off to the side. I'm going to be using my snap brushes made by Princeton. Nice little paint brushes. Don't cost very much. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. Tonight I'm going to be using a 6 and a 2 and a 2 rigger if I need it. I'm not sure I'm going to need the 2 rigger, but I'm definitely going to need the 6 and the 2 round. And with that, let's get going. All right, I'm going to mix up. Ooh, let's get real close in here. A little bit of my blue here that I like to use in my skies. And I'm just going to trace that right along the top of my mountain peak. There we go. I'm not trying to put it on very thick, to tell you the truth. I'm going to come back and put a little bit extra on here and darken this up in another layer. So I don't want to make this first one too dark. So I'm just quickly putting it on there. All right, something like that. Just don't need to keep exactly outside of the lines here, but something close. There we go. Good, good, good. It's looking good so far. A little extra water to spread that out. And there we go. It'll probably look better to you if I flip it back around this way and zoom in. Okay, so there's the sky I've put in. I'm going to get a little bit of modeling in here, and that's fine. I'm not really worried about that. I'm going to paint the top of my mountain here. Here we go. This will be easier. I'm going to paint the top of my mountain right along the top here in a light gray, and I'm going to darken that as I come down. So what I'm going to do to make that stand out a little bit more, so when we go back and put the sky in, I'm going to come right along the top of this mountain and really across the whole horizon line here and darken it up and let it fade towards the top. I don't want to do it right now because I want to see how dark I need to go a little bit later on. But that's the plan on this one. Okay, now I've got some far, far away, distant hills back here. I'm going to use a little bit of purple for that and a little bit of brown. They're way back there. Maybe a little bit more brown than purple. I don't know. I'm just trying to get kind of the right color. Let me get that right in the middle so you can see what I'm doing. Maybe I'm going to mix a little bit of my blue in there. Our hills here aren't really green. We're in the middle of California. Maybe I'll mix just a little bit of green in there. We're in the middle of California. We haven't had a whole lot of rain in a long time, so our hills are pretty brown. And that's okay. We're going to get some rain sometime soon. So I'm going to take that, and again, this is going to be fairly light. I'm going to mix a little bit more water in here. I don't want this to be too dark. And I'm just going to look to see, I don't know if you can see any shine on there. I got just a little bit, but I think I can manage it. I'm going to put just a line of this paint there. Now I did touch the blue. Whoops. There we go. I did touch the blue, and I got a little bit of a bloom there. But for what we're doing, I'm not going to let that bother me. That's going to come out as just a little bit of maybe a little dark spot in our sky when we're done with our sky. Actually, it's expanding a little bit more than I thought it was going to, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to fight the urge to get that off of there. The thing that I would normally like to do. And just I'm gonna try to roll with it this time. If we have to go back and take that off a little bit later on, so be it, we can do it. And we might come back in and change the color here, put in a little bit of blue later on, even push this back a little bit further. All right, now the next thing I want to do is I want to put in a nice light gray in here in our rock feature. I know you all don't know, you're not intimately aware with what this looks like, but what it actually is the cap to an extinct volcano, and it's been around for millions of years, and as the volcano, or as the tectonic plate has moved over this volcano, it's caused a number of these rock formations, and so there are a number of them in a line that extend in the foothills here where I'm at. There we go. And I'm just putting in some basic gray. This is just a rock color. We could mix in some different colors into this. The rocks have a little bit of color to them. I don't want to, there we go. That'll give it some interest in here, but I don't want to mix too much of a different color in here. I just want to leave these a little bit basic, and we'll come back and manipulate that a little bit when we do a second layer on top of these. And there we go. I'm looking off to my left over here to look at my picture to see exactly what is rock and what is trees down here. Trees and undergrowth and whatnot. As we do this, I think I've got this right. If I don't have it right, we can always go back and paint over top of it. Remember, it's just watercolors. We can go back over top of it. We can take some of it off. This isn't a particularly staining color, this gray, and it is going to dry a little bit lighter than it shows, so we're not too worried about it. In fact, if you can just see, I'm just going underneath my line right there. I want to make sure I pull some of that down. Just a mostly dry brush. I'm just pulling that down below that line ever so much. Now, in doing that, if I don't quite paint that tree line up to the line that I've drawn, it's okay, because I've now got a little bit of paint that goes past it. We might see the line, but we're not going to sweat that too much. There we go. All right, now let's take a look and see what we got. The next thing we need to do is put some greens in here. And like I said, our greens are greenish brown. The only green I've got is in this palette is this green, so I'm going to mix up a good bit of that. I'm going to give it a little bit of water, and I'm going to mix a little bit of brown in it, and it's immediately going to dull it down. There we go. I'm hoping you can see that. So it looks like a brown desert green. And so I'm going to come back in, and I don't want it super dark again. I'm going to lay some of this color in here. I'm just mixing in a little bit of extra water in here. Just putting it right up there, because I know that I don't want this super dark. There we go. And if our colors mix here that little bit, we're not going to worry too much about it. And again, just like I'm going to paint this lighter and that a little bit darker, I'm going to paint the top of these bushes and trees a little bit lighter than I'm going to at the bottom. And I'm hoping that that's going to make the effect of it looking like it's a little closer to us. I guess we're going to find out. The proof, as they say, is going to be in the pudding when we get done with this. There we go. I need a little bit more brown. My green is getting a little greener than I want. I'll just drop in some of that brown and call it good. Something like that. If it gets a little browner over there, again, we're not going to worry about it too much. It's watercolors. We do want the colors to flow somewhat. So there we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up to my sky. I'm just tapping it. It's pretty dry. I don't think we're going to get any runs either direction. So I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to come back to my, blue. Man, I'm going the wrong way on the camera the whole time. I'm going to come back to my blue here. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. And I'm just going to intensify that sky a little bit. You can mix a little bit of the ultramarine blue in there with you if you want, but I wouldn't do too much of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this draw right out like that, and that's going to give us a nice sky there. And again, I'm looking over I'm looking over these blooms that are in there. Of course, it's upside down and you're going, I don't remember what you're talking about. I don't see what you're talking about. You're going to see it in just a second. Just let me finish this. I've got just this little bit left to go. Almost nothing. We'll be done with this in just a second. Ooh, that's too thick. I got to thin that down a little bit. There we go. We flip it over, and all of a sudden we've got a huge dramatic sky. It really pushes that mountain forward for us. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to mix up a little bit more blue with my green here. I'm going to put some down at the bottom and fade it up just like I did with the sky. And with a little luck, it's going to really push this hill way back there. Especially when we get over here towards the peak where I'm at right now, where we want to make sure everything is way back. There we go, and we'll just continue to blend that up. Let's see, I got to get some up here, right up there. There we go, and if we look at it now, it should look, I'm just letting my brush dance around on there, give it just a little bit of extra texture. You can kind of pull that color around just a little bit. I don't want to do it too much. That's a far away place back there, way back in the distance. I don't want any hard details back there, but I don't want it to be just bland either, so I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, so now I'm going to drop down a brush, and I need to decide at this point exactly where my light source is coming from. Is it coming from this side? Is it coming from this side? Shoom or shoom. And that's going to help me determine on which side to put my shadows. And I think I'm going to have my light source coming from over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a little bit of darker gray mixture here. You can mix a blue in it if you want. You can mix a little brown in it if you want. You can mix a little bit of green. You can do a little bit of all of those. We just need that brown color to be a little bit more intense than the one we're using. And now I said my light was coming in this direction, so of course that's going to make it hard for me to paint. But let's see, should be able to do a couple of things here. Let's try this. I should have just said it's going the other way. That would have made things much easier. So I'm going to try this, and I'm going to blend this out to the side. There we go. And with any luck, when I do this, where I do this, it's going to make these rocks look like they have a little bit of depth in there. There we go. We might have to come and do these again. I don't know. Let's see what it looks like when we get a few of these done. Back there and back there. Okay. Well, I got a little bit more paint on here than I want, but that's okay. Again, we're not going to worry about stuff, little things like that when they happen. It's watercolor. It happens. We're just going to pick it up and move on. There we go. There we go. And you can kind of see now we're starting to develop a little bit of depth in here. I'm going to vary this color just a little bit. Okay, I got a little bit of blue in there. That's not, I didn't want quite that much, but that's fine. And I'm just going to put in a little thing like that. There we go. And the more of these you do, you can put in all kinds of craggles in here if you really want. I'm going to put another one right there. I don't have it drawn in, but I'm going to put it there. All you got to do is put it in and drag it out. Make sure you clean your brush. Almost no water on it. Okay? And just make this little line right through there. Just like that. Right? Clean your brush. Almost no water. And pull part of that out. It'll just let it fade right out to the side. And you'll get these beautiful gradations. There's nothing to them. Don't think they're hard, because they're not. Anybody can do this. I'm going to put one right there, coming back down this way. And like I said, you can put as many of these on as you want. You can put as few of these on as you want. If you want that rock to be a long way away and you can hardly see any of these, only put a couple on. Nobody will think twice about it when they look at your painting. If you want to put 100 of these on your painting, you want to see a lot of detail in this rock, put a lot of these on. And you can see the more we do, let's see, I'm just going to vary this a little bit. I got a little bit of brown there. The more we do, we can darken some of these up. If you darken them up, let's talk about that for a second. If you darken this up, it's going to look like that's a bigger hole, like a giant cave back there or something. Right? That's going to mean that this rock right here, this bit of rock, is a lot further forward, and this big hunk is a lot further back. It's casting a lot bigger shadow. And just grab that and let it, just pull it out. There we go. Just like that. And by varying the color here in your pan, when you put it on, you vary the color of the rocks. And so each time you do it, it looks like there's a little bit something different going on in the geology. Like I said, you could put these on in a lot of detail. You can put them on in a little bit of detail. But however you do it, you're adding to the picture each time. Right? Here we go. There's another one right there. And they don't have to be lines. They could be holes in the rock. They could be anything you want. But we just need to put a bunch of them in here. Let's see. There should be one right there, I think. I don't know. Perfect. Now all of a sudden there's a little line right there on that rock. A little crevice. Boom. I'm going to put one right there. I didn't have one drawn there. I just thought, you know what? There probably ought to be one right about there. Just pull everything off to the same side so it looks like the shadow's going consistently that way. Okay, I got a couple over here that weren't quite dark enough. I want to darken those up a little bit. You can go back and do this. Just let it dry a little bit. I'm working a little bit quickly here because I want to get this in 20 minutes, a half an hour, something like that. So I'm going a little bit fast, but you can take your time. Let the first coat of these craggles, these holes, these crevices, let those dry up, and then go put some more on. You'll see this rock will just come to life as you're going to do that. Okay, I'm going to stop there for the purpose of this. I think we've seen that, right? And I'm going to put in I don't know, right along here, I think there's a, I'm going to do this now. And you're going to go, wait a minute, you just did, you know, some green, and you put in some, or you just put in some crevices and whatnot. And I'm going to go back right near those, and I'm going to put some green. I'm going to dab some of our green right in here. You can put it on the top of the line, you can put it below the line, you can put it just below the line. It doesn't matter where you're going to put it. The paint's going to find its own way, but it's going to look like you got some vegetation growing up there now. There we go, look at that. Instant stuff growing on this hill. Whoops. You know what, I got a rock right here. I don't have much of anything on, so I'm going to just get a little bit more of my paint, just mix it up a little bit here. And you know what, right there, there you go, it's kind of a strange thing, but I think that'll work for us. Almost no water, and just pull that out. There we go. Boom, got it. All right, I think we've got enough of our rocks. Actually, we could probably do that the other way to look a little better, I think. Let's see, if I did it and it went up this way, oh yeah, that's going to look better if I do it that way. There you go. That looks better. So we've got some trees in here, some rocks, some trees. I'm going to put in, I'm going to mix some more green. Let me back out so you can see what I'm doing here. Oh, the other way, the other back out. There we go. I'm going to mix up just a little bit more paint. All right, I'm going to make this my same deserty green. There we go, a little bit more intense. Or I could say a little less watery. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to basically do the same thing. I'm going to follow the bottom of this, and I'm just going to put some color in here. And I'm going to let it blend up. But instead of just doing it in a regular pattern, I'm going to try and do this in a somewhat irregular pattern. I'm going to let the brush bounce around a little bit. And you can see I've got now some texture in there. I haven't done anything. I haven't put any real texture on there myself. I've just let the brush kind of jump and dance and develop all of that texture on its own. There we go, but I don't want it to go all the way to the top. I don't want a gradation that goes all the way up there. I want a little bit of variation in here. But I do want to smooth over all of this. There we go. It just comes down right to the bottom. Down there. Just like that. And I'm going to take some of this and just dab a little bit here and there. Let the water take it where it wants to go. Making sure that the bottom part here is the darkest that I've got. And in no time, I've got some vegetation right down here. And now I've got just the last bit of vegetation on the picture I'm looking at. My green down here is just a slightly different color. I'm going to use my same green. That's basically the only green that I've got. And I'm going to mix some of this blue in it. And I'm going to just drop that on. If some of it mixes into the green above it, I'm okay with that at this point, because I want to cover up some of that white line between the two. There we go. You'll see these kind of grow together and those come down. There we go. And I'm going to just dab in some marks here and there. There's the bottom of my painting. And there we go. I've now just painted a nice little picture of Hollister Peak. I've got some nice vegetation growing on it, some cracks and crevices right in it. It's popping out of the painting because my skyline is so dark right behind it. I hope you had a good time watching this with me. I had a great time painting it with you. I hope to see you back here in the studio again another time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.